For me as a human being, I find that there are certain days in which really nothing seems to go right, and when you get home you need that certain brand of therapeutic violence that only certain video games can provide. My name is Splattercat, and today on Splattercat's Indie Shorts, we're going to be taking a look at Zombie Driver HD, which is bloodier than a vampire's napkin and driftier than the biggest iceberg you can find. This is a game about driving a car, performing missions, picking people up, and basically doing taxing, cargo, and ferrying services while in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. But let's have no qualms about the point of the game here. The ultimate point is to annihilate as much stuff as possible, and that's what I really love about this game. This game has no confusion about what it is, so let's get straight to it and actually talk about the game itself. At its most basic form, Zombie Driver HD is a narrative-driven driving game. The military has tasked you, a nameless taxi driver, with handling all the various missions that they don't have the manpower to handle. These missions usually fall into a few categories: either destroy a thing, pick up a thing, or deliver a thing. And honestly, you would think with that kind of gameplay variety you'd get bored pretty quick, but I found that to not be the case. This is largely due to the fact that the game seems to keep you on a very tight leash. A lot of the missions happen to be timed, or if they're not timed, they still have some kind of internal timer built into them, where your mission objectives will eventually expire, you will fail the mission, or you will ultimately not be able to complete the secondary objectives, which typically provide a nice little grip of money, or, in more rare cases, super cool upgrades for your car. Upgrades are applied to your vehicles in between missions, and yes, I said vehicles plural. There are a number of vehicles, from sports cars to the typical taxi, all the way up to crazy battle wagons that you can equip yourself with. The upgrades by themselves are a little bit limited, but still they give you something to shoot for as you complete missions. Everything from upgrading the amount of ammo you can carry for your weapons, to your speed, to your ramming ability, and also your ability to use nitrous are accounted for. These upgrades will most assuredly be put to a good use as you're dropped into a city basically covered in barbecue sauce that really wants to tear you from your taxi and rip your face off. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear here that for me, as a reviewer, the fun part of the game was not at all the missions. And what I mean by that is the missions in and of themselves are fun, they're interesting, they're engaging, it does have a strong narrative. However, you are put into a very large city which has a massive map. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto 1 or 2, you will be instantly acclimated. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You are under no obligation to complete any of the mission objectives they actually give you. You can spend your time driving around, annihilating zombies, and generally just getting into trouble as much as you want. There are power-ups littered all throughout the city, everything from extra money to extra guns to vehicle repairs, and there's tons of stuff to explore. You can move your way through docks, through ghettos, through nice, rich upper-class areas with palm trees swaying in the breeze. It seems like no one has been excluded from this zombie attack. And attack they shall. Now, the enemy variety in this game is a little on the light side, and that was one of my complaints, is there's not a whole lot of types of zombies. You're going to spend your time destroying more dogs than Michael Vick and annihilating giant, muscular, burly zombies as well, in addition to your normal corn-fed garden, well, I guess gut-fed garden variety zombies. There are some interesting types, though. Occasionally you'll find spawners, which are big kind of storage crates that you would see on the back of big old harbor ships. You also run into things that I can only describe as the boomers from Left 4 Dead, where if you run into them with your car, they do a huge amount of damage and act sort of like landmines so that you can't just haphazardly smash your way through crowds without paying attention. Other things that I enjoy about the mainline gameplay is that the game really doesn't care about property damage. In fact, you are rewarded for it, so that adds a whole nother facet to the gameplay that I found myself enjoying tremendously. You've got a giant map, and everything from fences to individual cars to little bits and crates and things of that nature can be destroyed with weapons or just by driving through them, and they will give you a cash bounty for doing so. So in this case, the residential destruction adds a giant plus to the game for me. As if that weren't enough, Exor Studios has decided to pamper its players with an additional crop of game modes that actually they really didn't have to include. The game by itself would stand perfectly fine, but you are treated to a raceway mode, which gives you a sort of death race control, where you get to pick your car just like you would in a normal mode, but it gives you a whole different circuit to compete on. You'll be racing in a full track with a bunch of other vehicles, and you will be using the money you earn in between rounds to upgrade your weapons just like you would in the normal storyline gameplay. However, it gets progressively harder, the tracks get a lot longer, and the whole thing does seem like a lot of fun. I've only played a couple races thus far, but the race mode, if that's what you're into, could definitely be an attraction. If driving along at breakneck speeds, firing projectiles at your foes and at zombies while racing for the gold doesn't strike your fancy, the game also features a survival mode in which you are put up against basically endless zombies just to see how long you can survive. However, your time only factors in slightly. What really determines your score in this mode is how many zombies you kill at regular intervals, like say 250, 300, so forth. When you kill a certain number of zombies, it will spawn power-ups for you that will allow you to continue your survival. These actual spots will respawn as well, meaning each time you unlock this new interval of gear, it basically changes the way that you can play, and so you can rotate between power-up spawn points and so forth while trying to avoid death. All that said, I feel like there's a lot of developers out there who are just throwing zombie material into the sky and trying to see what sticks so that they can capitalize on the whole fad. I initially approached Zombie Driver with kind of that apprehension, like, is this the sort of cash grab that you would see nowadays surrounding the whole zombie subgenre? But I was actually very surprised to find out that the game stands very well on its own 2 feet. It's got an interesting concept. The game plays like butter. The frame rate never dipped lower than 60 for me. It looked great. It played very well. And while you're careening through the city, spraying bullets at everything that moves, it's very easy to have a good time. The graphics work perfectly fine for what they're trying to do, and I did like the little touches that they put in, such as your car actually getting new bits and bobs added to it as you upgrade its defense rating. I feel as though the extra gameplay modes do work in the game's favor, adding a ton of longevity. I had a lot of fun with both the Slaughter survival mode and with the race modes, and so really I have no problem giving this game a thumbs up. On the soundtrack side, the game does have a cool soundtrack. It's something you would expect to see out of a Resident Evil movie, sans Mila Jovovich, so I did find that to be a standout feature as well, which is pretty rare. It's very rare that I point out a soundtrack, I'll put it like that. So in any case, I feel like Exor Studios has done a great job with the title, and I have no problem recommending it. My name is Splattercat, and this has been Splattercat's Indie Shorts, taking a look at Zombie Driver HD by Exor Studios. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care out there, everybody.